Bill Atkinson, president of Atkinson Strategic Communications, a Baltimore-based public relations firm. And I'm here today with Kelly Cullum, CEO and co-founder of Best Friends Forever. Best Friends Forever is a doggy daycare, boarding, training, and grooming resort with locations in Joppa and Cockeysville, Maryland. Kelly, welcome to Citybiz.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure.
Everybody has a dog these days, especially coming out of the pandemic. So tell us about Best Friends Forever, and that fur is F-U-R, right? And what it does, when it was founded, and how things are going.
Sure. Best Friends Forever. We founded the company in 2004. It took us a number of years to put together the concept. Back then, a lot of folks thought about care for a dog as a kennel. And as a matter of fact, we don't use the K word in our company because we're far from a kennel. So I think our mission statement, not to brag on it, but just a little bit, is it says everything about us. Our mission statement is to love your dog for a lifetime. So since we've been open about 18 years, that means for us, we've seen dogs, obviously from as young as 8 weeks. That's usually when someone gets a puppy, like on a Friday, and then they have the whole weekend. And then comes Monday and they got to go back to work. And here comes that 8-week-old puppy because we need some help with everything, potty training and whatnot, all the way till they reach the ripe old geriatric ages of the oldest dog we've ever had stay with us was 21 years old. And so after 18 years in business, you might imagine that a lot of the puppies that started with us in 2004, right, 2005, are now part of our geriatric assisted canine care ward that we have. So Best Friends is a lifelong dream of mine. I'm a wee bit of a fan of dogs, you might say. I'm totally addicted to dogs. And I wanted to provide an atmosphere, facilities that would care for them in a stress-free environment. One of the things we always say to new pet parents when they come in is, look, we know you're a little nervous. This is your 4-legged child, and you're going to drop them off for the day, or you're on your way to Hawaii, wherever it is. And yeah, they're going to miss you. But they're going to be so busy. There's so much going on. They sleep so well at the end of a day. They've done more in the average day than they've ever done at their households. And before they know it, there you are, you're walking back through the door again from the vacay or from the work day. And they're like, wow, where did time go? Because it's an experience that we want the dog to have where it's an enjoyable, fulfilling experience. And, it just takes away any kind of a stress environment where you'll see a lot of dogs that they enter like a veterinarian's office or let's say a traditional kennel. They see the shaking and the nerves and all of that. And the dogs that bounce through our door, literally bounce through our door every day, lining up, a couple hundred dogs at each location, they're running through, they're pulling their dogs, their owners across the parking lot to come in. So that's that was our mission. That's what we aimed for. And I think we more than succeeded.
Now you didn't always do this. What did you do before?
Something that's so relevant, you guys you'll connect the dots right away. My background is in medical diagnostics. So one of the companies that I worked for along the way in medical device was IDEX Laboratories. And IDEX is a veterinary diagnostics firm. So I got to know a lot of veterinarians over the years, got to be really good friends with a number of them. A number of them had kennels as part of their revenue centers. So I'm digging in, asking a ton of questions about, does this have legs? Is there a profit in this part of the business? And there was. So that from then on, I was planning the exit strategy. Love IDEX, love the company and everything about it. But at one point I said, the next person I want to work for, I'm looking at her in the mirror. So I wanted to put together this business plan that would allow me to work in animal health, the animal world, but to own it and to have a very different vision of what we would deliver. So yeah, I come from outside the industry in a sense, but then I did a boatload of work, back in the late 90s, to date myself a little bit, when I first started putting the business plan together, I couldn't Google these places. So I looked up as many as I could online. I went and visited about 35 individual facilities throughout the United States, and they were a lot of them in their infancy. And they gave me, I'm grateful for this, they gave me a day of their time, and I took copious notes and put together what I think became the ultimate resort for our canine guests.
So wasn't there a change in how Americans perceive their pets, their dogs. Like you use four-legged children and pet parents and canine guests. You don't really use the word dog that often. What happened? Like, so we had a dog, we had to put her down, and I'm like, okay, that's it. But now we have Eliza's ashes, and we commissioned a little portrait of her. So what happened to people and their relationship with dogs?
I think the industry has a number of articles on this talking about what happened to the psyche of the pet parent over time. But I think you ended up with a lot of young people. The empty nester syndrome goes from early 20s, and some of our clients are in their 80s. So it became this the companionship, what a dog provides to not only the individual person but to the family, is such an amazing thing. And I think that as people, social media and all of the different venues that highlighted what we do with our dogs day in and day out, how we treat them, it just became the norm. I mean, a lot of us behind the scenes, if you want to be honest, we treated our dogs like this, the whole time. And then you'd meet people, like I'd meet people at work and they'd say, "What did you do this weekend? You got your dog a stroller?" And I remember like clear as day. And I thought, oh, I'm just not going to talk about this much anymore in a business meeting because got a lot of strange looks. But that is so the norm now. Now they have outfits and paraphernalia and everything you can imagine for that four-legged child. And, look, I'm prejudiced about this, but I think they're some of the best kids you'll ever meet. You don't necessarily pay for college, but if you do training, you pay for like a mini college. And you don't necessarily have to buy them school clothes, but sometimes they do need a jacket if it's getting a little chilly and they're short-haired. So they're not quite as expensive an opportunity as a two-legged child. And so a lot of people find that very attractive. You get to have something that you love and that loves you back and fulfills that need, but it's not necessarily the same commitment as starting a two-legged family.
And I see that in my neighborhood. I see pet parents pushing their elderly dogs around the neighborhood in strollers, which is very nice. I think it's great. Dog's tongue is hanging out. It's having a good time. So the business starts in 2004. How big is it? How has it grown over the years?
Well, we went in the black. I think it's an interesting fact because a lot of people will track small businesses, and I had a hard time getting my first business loan. I went to 7 banks and pitched my story, and
Stop right there. What did they say to you? What did they say to you?
what is a dog? Did you say dog daycare? Because I thought you said child daycare. I said no. I said dog daycare is a premise with other services around it, and they say, oh, you can see them taking notes, zoning it. And then the interview was over. And Susquehanna, go back in the day, now no longer Susquehanna, took a chance on me. And I'll be forever grateful for that. So we went in the black in 6 months from opening. I'm really proud of that because I think that speaks volumes about this industry and, where there was a need for this. Just that people didn't really think about it until it was presented, like in Field of Dreams, you build it and they will come. And we did, and they did. And that was just an amazing growth pattern. And we used to track everything in dogs. I used to get in the morning because I was the chief cook and bottle washer in the beginning, right? And I'd get in the morning where I do the overnight and I start looking at my numbers. I go, how many dogs you got today? 39, 42, 56. And we would celebrate like every milestone along the way, getting up into our numbers. And then when I came out of corporate, I put myself into dog training school down in Texas and I became a dog trainer. And so I paid the grocery bills for a lot of it through my dog training. There's a lot of people needing dog training. That was well known, but we did it very differently there also. So that caught on and that helped us really, make a presence. From there, I always wanted to be in the Hunt Valley area. When I first opened, I commissioned a commercial firm to study demographics, dual income, dog owners, all of those metrics, traffic patterns. And they came up with the Falston area or, Bel Air and all of that. And then they also came up with Towson and Hunt Valley. No surprise. And I went over there. I interviewed at so many different buildings. I kept trying to find someone to lease to me. No one wants to lease to the dog industry because they think of us as kennels. So eventually I found a property and bought the second property in 2012 over in Cockeysville. And that one grew at twice the rate of Joppa. So currently today, We do on our peak seasons, on an average, over 500 dogs a day, either in daycare or overnight, and we employ over 100 people. So we've grown from Kelly and her husband and a couple of folks to that kind of volume. And we're a multi-million-dollar organization. This year, we're on our way to double digits in the seven-figure category. So it's we're very blessed. We're very blessed in our growth.
Well, there's been a lot of hard work for sure, and some worry. Remember the pandemic. Tell us what happened during the pandemic, which is really when I met you.
That's right. That's right. So as soon as that all kind of sunk in, what was going to happen? There goes travel. People are staying at home. There goes everything. The first thing I thought about was all the doctors and nurses and EMTs that already used us before the pandemic. I had a ton of people. I have a early drop off at 4:45 in the morning, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that use that drop off that are on their way to do first responder type work. So I thought, gosh, what are they going to do? And I was hoping that Governor Hogan was going to allow us to stay open. That happened, thank God. And so we went into action, and I contacted Bill and I said, Bill, I want to do something for the community because I'm worried. I'm worried about a lot of dogs being at home for 12, 15, 18 hours if we're not open and if we can't help them. And I'm also worried about these guys. Not everybody had discovered the benefits of using us for daycare and whatnot. So I wanted to get that word out. You don't have to leave your dog at home. I know you're an essential worker. I know you're going into work. Here we are. So we came up with the idea with Bill to give away 2,500 days of daycare, which we pretty much did. We came almost close to that number. And my team felt really great about that. The number of folks walking through the door saying, I don't know what I would do if you guys weren't here. Thank God, because and you remember back then, people were pulling double shifts. So forget the 12-hour shift. You got guys there 24, 36, 48 hours. And, we're there 24 hours. We never close. So we're a 365, 24/7 company. So if they called and said, you know what, I'm on the shift, I'm going to keep rolling, and say, hey, it's all right. They're overnight. Don't worry about it. And don't worry about it. Don't worry about paying for it. Don't worry about any of that. And I'll tell you, that was a pay it forward that we're proud of. And I'm just really glad that we did it. I think it helped a ton of people through a tough spot.
Yeah, you really impressed me at that point because you were relentless and you were really hit hard with this pandemic. You have business acumen, savvy, and you're going at it. And one thing you did was you created a couple new lines of business, which was EMS and medical, and maybe those are the two, but those are still with you today, I think.
They are. They are. And I'll tell you, the other thing that happened in the pandemic, besides those segments that that came to us and then we provided for them, you watched it on the news, you saw it everywhere. The shelters emptied. Everybody went out and got a dog. Everybody went and adopted a dog. The breeders up in the Amish country in PA, it was a number one business. I think, well, of course it still is, I think, for them. So there was that, here's what's to come. When they can get back out of their houses, and the phone calls started to come. Okay, we got this dog. I'm not quite back to work yet, and here's what's happening. And slowly, as we opened up as a country, people started coming back out. And even if they weren't back at work, they were starting to come to us because, help, I've never had a dog before. Help me, I understand the potty training. This is a mess. Everything was super cute in the first couple weeks of pet parenting. And then it became super serious about what do I do? I've never had this experience before. So we ended up picking up thousands of customers. I mean, our customer database today, active customer base, is about 16,000. So we grew exponentially from the pandemic forward, which was, very fortuitous and a wonderful byproduct. Now, one of the things you and I talked about, Bill, that's near and dear to my heart is that as we came out of the pandemic, people got back to work, whatever happened, mostly we think behavior issues where they didn't get help. They didn't have anybody to talk to. 47% of the dogs adopted in the pandemic were returned to the shelters. So we're doing our very, very best. We are canine counselors. That's what we do for a living. So if you need help, right? What we told people, we've got on the news thanks to Bill. We've been out there spreading the word. If you're thinking about making that drive back down to the shelter, let's try one other option. Let's look at some other things that you could be doing, even if you don't buy any services from Best Friends Forever. That's not even the point. I want to keep that dog in your household if it's just a matter of a behavioral issue that we can help you solve. So the pandemic brought around, I feel like a little bit of a roller coaster, right? Oh, all the dogs went away. Then a lot of dogs came back. And then quite a few dogs left their homes that they were loving and ended up back at shelters. So see if we can't reverse that roller coaster.
And recently you made a move. You created something called Dogversity. Talk about Dogversity and who you've brought in.
So one of the things that's interesting about dog training, and I can speak from the fact that I went to a dog training school and became a dog trainer. There's lots of different ways to train dogs. Classically, in our area, in most of our counties around us, there's a lot of former military, former police officers, God bless them and thank them for their service, who, when they leave their canine units, end up starting up dog training businesses. And the tools that they use for a working dog, which are almost exclusively electronic collar, are an interesting choice, but not always the choice for most dogs. So one of the things we created, and it's how I started training, is something called balance training. So Bill, I'm going to interview you. I'm going to ask you a little bit about your household, who's going to be caring for your pup. What do you guys like to do? Are you hikers? Do you go to the craft markets? Do you go to the farmers markets? Do you want to go out to a lot of public events? And we're going to build a profile about you and your dog. And out of that, we're going to choose a number of different options and tools, because you have to have tools. Dogs learn by certain things that you put in front of them, make sure they understand how they learn. And it could be something as simple as their own collar, a flat buckle collar and a leash. Or it could be something like gentle leaders, or there's a number of tools, but we employ them all. And one of the biggest hotspot, this was news to me in all the years that I've been in the business, but the biggest hotspot for dog training academies and professional dog trainers is in St. Louis. If you want to ask me why, I would say that it was because Purina and that company put a ton of investment into that area. And there's a very, very famous academy down there called Kennelwood Academy, started by the Purina family. And they graduate 18 to 30 graduates every 6 months. And those graduates go to school for 6 months on a $20,000 tuition. And they learn every single aspect there is about dog training. Not only all the tools that I just mentioned, but everything you can think about: agility, dock diving, teaching hunting dogs, Schutzen, basic obedience, extreme obedience. They learn every single possible facet that you can ever think about, that everything you ever want to do with your dog, possibly for fun. So we said, my goodness, we're having difficulty finding trainers in Maryland who aren't just e-collar based, coming out of the traditional. And so we found there was a job fair. We went down and found 3 fabulous trainers, hired them, and they just became Maryland residents up here, enjoying crabs in Old Bay and enjoying the heck out of Maryland, and helping us build our new program, which is Dogversity. And Dogversity is very much like the concept of, how do your kids get ready for school? So you've got the 8-week to 3-month-old puppy. The brain power that's going on up here is a little limited. So we're going to teach, a puppy version. We're going to start out in the simple commands. And then all the way up through dog graduate, where you're doing some what we call parlor tricks, like you can dance with your dog. Your dog can do, a whole bunch of fun things that you could show off to your friends out in public, stop, drop, and roll, shoot the dog with your finger. They drop dead, they roll over, they play dead. We teach dogs to pray. There's just a number of fun things that you can do with your dog. And so those different grades, those different levels that we take the dog through, come about by interviewing you, the pet owner, the pet parent. What are your goals? What would you like to do? Some people don't care at all. They just don't want to get pulled across the parking lot. They'd like to stop the counter surfing. There's some certain things around the house. So simple programs. Maybe we're going to stay in dogamentary. But once people get hooked, I'll be truthful with you. When we start teaching some tricks, and people will send us videos like, I was showing my friends at a barbecue this weekend about what so and so could do, and then then sometimes they want to they want to advance up into the upper grades, and so Dogversity allows them multiple choices, and it allows the dog parent, the pet parent that wants to go up into every single level and get to the almost human like capabilities with their four-legged child, the ability to do so.
Now, I would never espouse this, but do you, or use this, but do you ever teach dogs to fetch a beer from the refrigerator?
We do have dogs that will retrieve, and we have dogs that we've taught to open the refrigerator, and I'm assuming that it might be getting a soda or something out of there. We're not for sure, but yes, there's things that we've taught that are handy at the house. We are in the process of talking to Ripken Stadium and talking about a retriever on a bat dog. There's a couple of different AAA ball clubs that have dogs that are bat dogs, that when the bat gets dropped, the dog goes out and retrieves. And so we're talking about maybe putting that into play and getting somebody a little bit famous.
That's a great idea. Let me shift gears and just talk about the market, the size of the dog market. How big is it, and where do you fit in?
Americans spend about $110 million, roughly, on pet services and products.
Is that million or billion?
Billion. And our segment falls into what they call global pet services, because we fall into kenneling and veterinary and whatnot. And that size of that market in 22 was about 25 billion. It's got a compounded growth rate that they're looking at up into 2030 of about 9.2%. So it's not stopping anytime soon. Where we fit, it's easier. In some ways, I just want to say this: the average facility of our type, dog daycare, boarding, grooming, training, and whatnot, there are 35,000 of us in the United States. The average is doing somewhere around $1.5 million in revenue a year, doing somewhere around 100 dogs a day in various services, grooming. It's a mixture. So we're a fragmented industry. Now, there are some very big players. There's a lot of franchise players out there. There's folks like Dogtopia, Camp Bow Wow, Canine Resorts. There's a number of them. And those folks, that their main goal is to open up smaller centers, smaller dog daycares, and in much smaller, like a shopping center type plaza, like 7,000 square feet, 8,000 square feet. And their target is to do 60 to 80 dogs a day. So there's a real mix. And there's some big players. We consider ourselves one of the bigger players at 500 plus dogs a day. There's several of them throughout the United States. So it really varies. And everyone has a different reason why they open their facilities. Some people want to do dogs under 30 pounds. Some people want to get up into volume. Some people want to measure it out and just want to be at a basic rate of about 100 dogs. So it really varies. And as you drive down the road, if you were to pull into one after the other, in the city of Charlotte, as an example, there's 100 of these in Charlotte proper. So you can drive down the street and just keep pulling in, and you'll see the variability of 20 something dogs to 150 dogs. So the models are really varied and vast.
So the competition is intense, I would imagine.
Yeah, we're a complicated business, I think. Best Friends Forever is a complicated business in a complicated industry, because even though I just described other dog facilities, most of them don't play in all the segments. So, for just naming some differences, in other resorts, you'll find that they may not have anybody on staff overnight. So they do a different model. They have cameras up and the dogs are left alone. And they're only indoor. So there's no place for the dogs to go play outside. So dogs learn some different habits of, different potty habits from going inside and things of that nature. Most of them don't take geriatric or special needs dogs. That's one of our specialties, right? Because as we said, from start to finish, from 8 weeks to however old they are, we're happy to have them. Matter of fact, we can't wait to sometimes see our geriatrics come in. So in that aspect of a brick and mortar type competitor, we've distinguished ourselves because we really do offer everything, and we're round the clock, and we believe that there needs to be 24-hour supervision, and we take every kind of dog, every breed, and every age. Other competition that's out there in like the dog sitting and the overnight areas are the Uber like apps, right? The Wags and the Rovers. These are companies that hire contract employees, and they either come into your home or you bring your dog to their home. And I'm going to leave it at that to say that they're not managed. These guys are just, they sign up. You just sign up to be a contractor. They do a quick background check, and then you start taking care of dogs or cats or lizards or rabbits, whatever's in the home. It's a convenience type thing. It's what we're obviously, the food industry. We're with Dash and Dine and all of the other, the different Uber like services. They are a competitor. I think once people have used them and there's like that worry, right? You leave and the dog's at home and someone's coming in. Are they coming in? Did they come? Did they make it there? Or you bring them to someone else's home and how many other dogs are there? And is that person there with them all day? So we're pretty transparent. We're 24-hour. You know where your dog is. You can check on them. You get report cards, and we have webcams. So you can see your dog playing throughout the day and you know what they're up to. So, when you look at the other segments of our business, we talked about the trainers. There's a number of different training companies out there, most of whom are electronic collar based. Most of the grooming facilities are just that. They're standalone groomers. And that means that if you take your dog to be groomed and you drop off at 8:30 in the morning and they finish up at like 10, your dog goes in a crate for the rest of the day. So a lot of people get a little worried about, especially older dogs as they're getting groomed. There's a little stress there, and having them crated for an entire day while they're getting all pretty for the pickup. So there's all different models, but what we feel makes us different, what takes us off the playing field, is that we offer all of those services. We are there constantly, and any of the services, no matter how you price it out, we're about $3.80 to $3.90 an hour if you take our prices. So we're a 5-star treatment, we think, on a very affordable rate.
You mentioned the number across the country of businesses that service dogs. Is this an industry ripe for roll up or private equity investment? Are you seeing any of that?
Oh my goodness. We didn't even talk about this question, but I'm glad you asked it because it is unbelievable. The veterinary community, along with the dog resort community, has been in a massive roll up. I must get at least 6 emails a day, I kid you not, from PEs looking to buy. There's a company called Destination Pet. They've rolled up about 250 dog resorts, and they've rolled up far more than that veterinary practices. There's a company called NVA, and they rolled up about 100 dog care facilities, and then they've rolled up 500 or so veterinarians. So yes, the consolidators are active, and they are out talking with owners who, if we're all being candid for a second, pandemic gave us a little wake-up call. We follow the travel industry in some sense. We're like a hotel. We're like a kid's daycare. We're like a beauty parlor. We're like going to tutoring for your child. So we have all those different segments. But when the world shuts down, the world shuts down, and people aren't out using, much of any of those services. So I think a lot of owners took a look at that and said, "You're coming in to make me an offer. I think I'm ready to go." It shook up a lot of people. I think it fortified us. We kept all of our employees on board. We taught them new life skills. We put them through all kinds of new training. And so we came out of the pandemic like, yeah, ready to roar. Let's go. Let's get some more dogs back in house, and let's get busy again.
Yeah. And that's what happened. Bang, you are off like a shot. So where do you see the company heading in over the next 5 years?
So, putting these together at the sizes that we do, one of our buildings is 10,000 square feet and the other one's 20,000 square feet. In my opinion, you need at least 15,000 square feet to make one of these successful, and you need at least an acre and a half outside to get them room to play. So no small trick to do that when you try to get into the cities, because it's hard to find outside area and whatnot. So what we're going to do is we're looking at satellite facilities, and we're going to let our growth go organically. We're going to drop into these satellites our training, because we think that's where a lot of people are going to focus as they continue in their pet parenting. We're going to drop in our grooming, because we are expanding our grooming. We now have a career path for a number of our employees to become groomers. There used to be a grooming school in Baltimore. It closed several years ago. And now in order to get to learn how to groom a dog, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 to 15,000, and they're nowhere near here. You have to go put room and board together and go out of state. So we're going to drop in grooming. And then one of my absolute favorites, assisted canine care, our ACC unit. We think that has great potential. And this one's going to be a little bit outside the bandwidth of anything we've talked about here today in our post-surge. So if anybody's ever had a dog that was out there playing, just enjoying themselves in the backyard, here they come up the stairs, they got that back leg hooked. What the heck happened? Did you trip on a rock? Did you fall down? And the fact is they pulled the old ACL, and now they need ACL surgery. And an ACL surgery starts somewhere around $3,500. And then once you do the one knee, because they have to rest on it, they start using the second knee. And so many dogs go through a double ACL. So now you're $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. So you leave your surgeon, and you've got your little hoist, you've got all your instructions, and you come home and you got to go to work. So what are you doing? It was very expensive surgery. And you're going to have the neighborhood friend or a pet sitter or, WAG or Rover, whomever, come in and try to do this very critical rehab work that needs to happen on a daily basis. So we are partnering with surgeons to become the post-surge. So we'll package it up into one fee, and we will revenue share that. And then when they come home, maybe they'll come home with you on that Friday night, and you'll have the weekend or whatever the case is. And on Monday morning, you drop them off with us. And we do this today. We do a lot of post-surgical care, but we're going to expand that. And we think that's a nice offering to help people get through tricky things like, those kind of surgeries. Dogs get their knees done, believe it or not, luxating patellas. Even simple surgeries like spays or neuters, and you don't want them home by themselves, for the day after they just come back out of the surgery. So we think by putting those into satellites, letting them grow organically, then we'll add on to it, and we'll expand exponentially through adding those services out into the community.
Wow. I love that strategy. What percentage of dogs have like knee injuries, ACL tears and patella tears?
That is a great question. I don't know the percentage. I do know that the breed specific, a lot of your labs and Goldens and all of, those dogs traditionally have hip issues. Some of your shepherds, a lot of dogs that have kind of a little bit of the fragile hip issues, orthopedic issues in general, and they're rough and tumble. A lot of your labs are all goofy out there, and they're running like crazy, and there's no, they don't understand their own limitations. And so we see it most often there. Usually don't see it in the smaller dogs as often.
I think you had mentioned to me there's an app, maybe it's not an app, but yeah, it is a music app called Zounds. Can you explain that, Kelly? And is this like could a human use it and just check out at your doggy day spa?
Yeah, it's a great question. Zounds was developed by a group of engineers studying the canine ear and the feline ear and all of the behaviors that happen when that old expression, music soothes the beast. They studied different sounds and earth tones and all kinds of different things that they felt would calm dogs down in different situations. I learned about them through my industry, which is IBPSA, International Boarding and Pet Service Association. I'm on their board. And this gentleman came and talked to us about this application. And he was putting it in shelters. And I'm not sure if how long it's been since you walked through a shelter, but I volunteer and I'm on the board of one of the shelters locally. You go in there and you need the earplugs. It's deafening. Those guys want out and they're upset and there's so much stress. They started there and they play this music. And it is so soothing. And my staff will tell you that it's just a Zen experience out on the fields. So they started there. I brought the application in. I'm going to donate it to the local shelters. Locally, I'm going to pay for it to go into the shelters across our Hartford County and Baltimore County because it is just amazing. It doesn't matter if they're in their enclosures because it's time for them to go up for dinner or for their nighttime rest, or if they're out playing. Yes, they still play, but there's just something about that. It just evens them out. And my handlers, my handlers were like, why can't we play soft rock? Why can't we go back to some of our fun music? And then there's no more complaints. They're saying, you know what? Because the dogs are playing happily, but calmly. And it's just, these guys really did their homework. I'm really pleased with this product. And I'm really happy to go donate it because I think toughest thing to watch is a very stressed out dog in the shelter because, you just want to try to find them their forever home. And just let's see if they can get comfortable until that happens.
All right, let me ask you 3 rapid fire questions. I don't want you to think, I want you just to react. So, what breed of dog is your favorite dog?
Pekingese.
Beautifully done. How many dogs have you owned?
18.
Oh, man. And who was your favorite?
My first dog, a dog that we rescued, his name was Goner. And his name was Goner because if he ever came off the leash, bye-bye, gone with the wind. And we put him through training, and then he became this just really lovable dog. He was a dog that, front-loading dryers. We do a lot of laundry in our place. You can imagine, right? We're washing towels and sheets and all that all the time. And we would open that dryer, and he had Lyme disease when he was a puppy. So he's always cold. Open that dryer, and you turn around, and he was in the dryer with the towels. And he made himself a little burrow. So he was definitely an entertainer. So yes, he was one of my favorites.
All right, very good. Well, thank you so much, Kelly, for spending time with us here at Citybiz.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
You have a great business. I enjoy watching it grow. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks for this opportunity.